Hello, 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 and welcome in, everybody. I am Lisa Fain. I'm the CEO of Center for Mentoring Excellence, and I'm here with my colleague, Michelle Hancock. You are here for the National Mentoring Month, the first one, actually. We had a bit of a break for the beginning of the month as people were returning, but as many of you know, January is National Mentoring Month. And each year at Center for Mentoring Excellence, what we love to do is to talk to mentors and mentees to have them share their journey, to inspire others, to learn from each other, acknowledge each other, celebrate their relationship. I'm a special, special treat today with my friend Jane Boulware, my new friend Jules Pollack, and I'll tell you about them in just a moment. By way of housekeeping, a few small things. First of all, use the chat liberally. We would love to have you in. And if you want to just warm us up by sharing where you are calling in from, we would love to hear that. I know that Jules and Jane and I are in the Seattle, Washington metro area, and Michelle is in the suburbs of Phoenix, Arizona. So let us know where else. Cheryl, thank you. Welcome from Toronto, Canada. So let us know where you're calling in from. But also throughout the time that we're talking today, if you have an experience that relates to what Jane and Jules are saying, if you have a best practice that you have used to share, let's make this a learning space for everyone. We'd love to hear from you, as well as questions that you have. We'll have time for that as well. So let me tell you just a little bit about Jane and Jules, and then we'll dive right in. Rebecca, welcome in from Oregon. Just a reminder to those who are joining to share where you're calling in from as well. So Jane is from the cornfields of Iowa. She has defied expectations to lead billion-dollar businesses and rise as as a top Microsoft executive. By 52, she had launched 3 major ventures, navigated the US's largest merger, and left a trail of influential leaders behind her. She's passionate about empowering others to recognize their worth and now dedicates herself to mentoring, to board service, and to cherishing outdoor moments with her family. All proceeds of her new book, Worthy, are committed to the Boys and Girls Club of America's Youth of the Year scholarships, and we'll hear more about that as well. And if you want to know more about that, you can visit www.janeboulware.com. Michelle, if you would throw that in the chat so people can click on that after this session, that'd be great. And Jane's mentee, Jules Pollack, has joined us as well. Jules works for the Boys and Girls Club of Bellevue as Associate Director of Development, securing critical funds and stewarding relationships that provide equitable access to community resources. She's a skilled project manager who's passionate about building a positive workplace culture to motivate and inspire her team. She loves the outdoors. She spends her free time training for endurance races, rowing on Lake Union, and hiking with her dog, Georgie. So welcome to Jules and to Jane. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, we're so happy to be here. And I have to say, Banu, I saw your 1 in the morning in Nepal. Fantastic. Thank you for being here. Remarkable.
That is dedication.
Lisa, I have known you for several years now, for many years, and you've mentored me on this book. I just can't tell you how much I enjoy spending time with you and how much I respect you for walking the talk and providing opportunities like this for people to share and talk and learn from one another. So thanks for having me. And Jules, who's amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you both. Well, the feeling is 100% mutual. Jane, I know there's a lot of people on this call too who feel as I do, that you are, as I said on Facebook the other day, the real deal, just in terms of caring and kindness and paying things forward and just being a leader who really walks the talk. So we're really excited to learn from you and to learn from Jules, to learn from you today. Let's talk a little bit about your mentoring relationship and how you both first met.
Jules, you want to start off? You want me to?
Go for it. Kick us off, Jane.
All right. So I met Jules actually through, she came to my house and she was the relative of someone that was coming over for Thanksgiving. And we kind of hit it off then. And as a result of that, she wasn't even living in the Seattle area at the time. And we started to just follow up because she was thinking about relocating, wasn't sure what she wanted to do. And I wanted to provide a soft landing space for her. So I just reached out and said, when you're ready to come, or even before, let me know and see what I might be able to do. And in the process, I think opened my network to her to just talk to different people. And then that started our having walks and talks, and ours getting to know one another. And that became more of a, I think actually helped her solidify kind of the direction she wants to go, and also gave me the opportunity to get to know her better and help her on her journey as well. Plus, she's just a terrific person, and I benefited and continue to do so because I got to know the rest of her family, who have now become dear friends.
I love that. I love that. Jules, how did you know it's always great to meet somebody warm and open, but how did you know, what did Jane do that made you feel like she would be receptive to a mentoring relationship?
Well, honestly, Jane was persistent about reaching out, and she actually opened the door for me several times. I'd say like she had brought it up, once, and then I was like, oh wow, that's so kind of Jane to offer her time. Didn't really take it seriously, and then it wasn't really until the third or fourth time where she was like, hey, I'm still here, and this is still an opportunity for you if you'd like to consider it. And I was like, I would. Of course I would. And so I'd say really a lot of gratitude to Jane for her persistence and helping me recognize the value in kind of creating a relationship around mentoring with.
I love that. How did you set up the parameters of the mentoring relationship? How did you determine how you were going to have these conversations and what frequency and all of those things?
Well,
Oh, go
go
ahead,
ahead,
Jules.
Jane.
Go ahead, Jules.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, well, it kind of started, it started organically in that she kind of, we just decided to have a conversation. And I was like, yeah, I should sit down and learn from Jane. And from there, it kind of grew into, especially and it started, I wasn't even living in Seattle. So we kind of were setting up regular calls. Jane was really good about checking in. And once we were both kind of being really intentional about it. Once I moved here, we really were able to be a little more focused on how we spend time together, how we hold each other accountable in it, and it's really kind of grown since it started. What about you, Jane? What do you think about that?
I think that's fair. I think at first it was, you were a nice person and I wanted to see you do well. And so I just wanted to, do what I could. And then I remember the time when literally, I think you were like, when we sat down and I started asking you questions about what you were looking for. What did you like and not like? What made you successful in the last thing? What brought you energy? And just started to kind of ask questions that were a little bit more structured and a little bit more, hey, this is important stuff. How do you want to think about this? And what role can I play in getting you there? And from that time, I think we became a little more intentional. We became more intentional about when we got together, what we talked about. It wasn't just let's get together and have some fun, which was great, but it was really helping you land and direct where you wanted to go. And then it became, in some cases, situational mentoring. You were onboarding, you were experiencing new and different things, you were trying to discern your place and where you could, make an impact, and identifying the barriers, the typical barriers of that. So I not only got the opportunity to see that world through your eyes, but become a sounding board and hopefully offer a little bit of not only backward looking, but forward looking guidance on that.
I love that. So Jules talked a little bit, Jane, about what it was about you that made her open to mentoring with you, to seeking you out as a mentor. What was it about Jules that you knew she would be receptive to it and made you want to mentor her?
Well, if you meet Jules, you'll realize she's a ball of fire. She's a ball of energy. She's the full meal deal. She's articulate, she's smart, she's motivated, she takes the initiative, and she also does not recognize and appreciate those things in herself. She's great about bringing them out in others, but she doesn't necessarily appreciate that about herself. And so, but what she applies herself to, she's often successful. And the good part of that is she can do anything. The downside of that is if you don't have, if you're not directing your own ship, you can get lost a little bit in the waves, or someone else can direct you. And I saw somebody that I thought had just incredible potential, incredible opportunity. And I wanted to see if there was anything that I could do to help her in that regard. I have benefited from people saying, hey, have you considered? And done the same things to her that were done for and to me. And I wanted to be the person that could maybe help guide that.
Yeah. So Jane, you have experience, lots of years of experience in the corporate world, now in the not-for-profit world. How do you see mentoring differing in those two contexts, if at all?
Well, certainly at Microsoft and at Kimberly-Clark, I mean, there was, gosh, Latin American Network for Diversity, the DEI initiatives, the learning circles, the mentoring circles, all of those things were more structured in corporate America. So it was easy to know how to plug in. When you walked through the door, or when you signed up, or when you said mentoring, people knew what it meant typically. Mentoring versus sponsoring versus different things, right? When I reached out to Jules, I was creating a socket for her to be able to say, oh, I know what and how to utilize your resource. But she didn't have that, because she didn't have the context of corporate America. She was in a non-for-profit, which didn't have a formalized approach. And so she literally did kind of take that, thank you, but didn't follow up, because didn't know the process to do that.
Mm.
So I think that's probably true for most people. And the only thought I would have in that scenario is that mentoring is about seeking in another something that can help you advance, learning from someone else's experiences and so on. And if you find someone who's willing to share those experiences, help open doors for you, help guide you in a way that you don't know, say yes, whether it's structured, unstructured, or not. And I say yes, and then ask the question, how can we make this work together? How do we make this positive? But start by saying, yes, I am worthy of this. I can learn from this. And it's not a selfish thing, because like in Julie's case, I know I'm going to get more. I get more out of it than I give her. That's for certain.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. How have you benefited? How have each of you benefited from the mentoring relationship?
Well, I know for certain I've benefited because grown tremendously in my confidence. And I've also learned a lot about uh, how to be a self-advocate, and the importance of self-advocacy in my professional life. And, if I'm going to have Jane Boulware on my team, I better be on my own team. So I've learned a lot about being, the best fit for myself, and having Jane as a mentor, and someone to lean on, makes it even better. And so I feel like it's also been interesting too, as I've grown in my confidence just in my own personal and professional life. It's been interesting to see how our mentor relationship has changed over time, because as I've gotten better at asking questions and asking for feedback, or even giving feedback, our conversations get a little deeper, a little more meaningful, and ultimately more impactful. So it has been an interesting journey to see me grow confidence, and then also to see how it impacts just me and Jane, and how we impact too.
Yeah. How does that impact, Jane, before you answer my question, just a follow-up for you, Jules?
Yeah.
How does that impact your ability to do your job on a day-to-day basis?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think I walk into my office with more confidence. I think like the mentoring journey in general has taught me, I think the biggest thing I've discovered is that, like Jane said before, is I had all of these strengths and skills already, but I didn't know how to activate them as superpowers. And working with Jane was like, she was able to just like guide me to where the flip is, or the switch is, excuse me, to activate my superpowers. And so now I'm able to, sit in a team meeting and recognize what those powers are and how they differentiate from my teammates, and why they bring value to the team. And to honestly, to kind of lean into celebrating that a little bit, and making sure that I'm like helping others recognize that too, and being proud of it, I guess. So I'd say like it's definitely allowed me to it's shifted the way I work with my colleagues and my team, because I can enter the office with a lot of confidence, knowing that I am here for a reason and I bring value and I'm to be here for a reason too.
That's great. You can't underestimate the value of increased confidence, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes people say, "Oh, it's so mushy," but there's nothing really mushy
No.
about it, right? It is so fundamental to the way that we show up and such a huge piece of it. So great to hear.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jane, how about you? What have you learned from Jules?
Oh my gosh, how much time do we have? It's been so cool to see that, because when she first started out in the role, or even started out in the locally and looking at different things, she was kind of wobbly. She had all these skills and capabilities and so on, but she wasn't sure. She was a little bit wobbly even when she started her role, and I would be mentoring her a little bit. And I got to interject here, because she says, because of Jane, it's nonsense. All she did is take a little bit and make a lot out of it. Okay, so just to be clear about that. What the transformation that's really helped me, two things. One is I've watched her transition from someone whose skills and capabilities were kind of drawn out of her in her role. You had to go find them and get them and come out because she didn't offer them, to being the person now who claims them, who owns them, and acknowledges them. And as a result of that, others are coming to her and she's helping to lift them up as well. So it's just been a really great transformation. So what I've gained is watching that process. And Lisa, I'm 60 years old. So the way that I used to lead was more defined by the culture that I grew up in a little bit, right? Which is, you got to be this and this and this, and you work hard and you're there all the time and you're thinking about it all the time. And Jules has a much more balanced perspective. When she's in, she's all in, but she has a really good way, I think, of setting boundaries, of enabling people in a way that's more inclusive maybe than what I had begun. So she's also helped me see the transition to a new style of work that's been really helpful for me. Most importantly, lastly, I have to acknowledge that the mentee has become the mentor in our relationship. What does that mean? That means Jules is absolutely helping me with the launch of my book. She is teaching me, just in general, she's teaching me, I think, in many ways, in many ways, full stop. It used to be Jane's mentoring Jules, and now we have a relationship where there are some things where I bring experience to bear and can help her. There's so many areas where she brings experience to bear and helps me, not just from a satisfaction, but literally the skills that I do not have. And I love that. She's so generous in providing that to me that our relationship has literally become reciprocal, which is pretty awesome. And often actually happens, I think, with mentor and mentees when you have a good relationship.
100%.
If it's never one way.
Yeah, 100%. In fact, that's one of the characteristics of mentoring, right? It's funny because, sometimes people call it reverse mentoring, and you have just highlighted why I hate that term, because there's nothing reverse about it, right? Jules comes with her own wealth of knowledge. We call it complementary mentoring, right? Where, there is this super healthy reciprocity, where mentor becomes mentee, mentee becomes mentor. You're learning from and with each other. So super, super exciting. We often talk about learning being the purpose, the process, and the product of mentoring. And so in addition to kind of talking about what you have learned from each other, I'm wondering if you've learned anything about mentoring, or about the process of mentoring and the function of mentoring through this relationship.
I can speak to that. I've learned that it doesn't have to be formalized. It can be organic and it can evolve very naturally. I do think, though, for a while, we didn't have a framework around it. And so it started to maybe not be as effective because we weren't investing or finding the time to be specific about it. So I think for me, learning about mentoring, how to do it in a way that's not created by Microsoft or, facilitated by Kimberly-Clark, has been really helpful. Also, the nice thing about mentoring someone like Jules is there are people that she's got friends that I get to connect with as well. And there are other groups, whether it's Revel 11, et cetera, and it's all such a network. Typically what I'm learning is that when I reach out to Jules or Madeline or someone else, they get to know one another, and then they get to support one another as well. So the scope of typically who you mentor, I did not appreciate how it can grow and then what they can do. It's a force multiplier. And I love that concept. That's how we're going to change corporate America. That's how we're going to get leaders. And that's how we're going to make an impact in a way that doesn't exist today. I love that.
Yeah. Amen, sister. Kathy Cram and Belrose Reagans are both doing amazing research on this idea of developmental networks and and what you're talking about really is a developmental network. You start with one relationship and then it really branches out to other relationships, and the synergy is incredible, and what it could mean just, in terms of life satisfaction, let alone career satisfaction. Is pretty awesome, huh?
She's changing the culture and the careers of people at Boys and Girls Club. I get to see it, which is really cool. And they in turn will do the same. So I've learned a lot from them.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. I'd have to add too. I think for me, like I didn't really until Jane. I mean, I've always had people who I've considered mentors, but I don't think I really understood the importance of intention behind it. So for me, I was learning just about the concept of mentoring and how it's important to be more intentional about it, but also how it is rare. Like I don't hear about people having mentors, at least in my career path so far, as much as I would want to. And so one of the things I have to share that Jane makes you sign up for if you sign up for mentoring with Jane is if she's going to mentor me, I in turn have to mentor 5 others. And when she first told me this, I was like, I don't know how that's possible. How could I be a mentor? That seems so silly. I'm the one who needs all the answers. And so that in itself has been an empowering assignment, because it, has already kind of made me step outside of myself and think about how, like, what I have to give to others and also to pursue it. So I have enjoyed that part of the deal. And I think it's an important one for our relationship too.
So Jane, is that a ground rule that you set with people who you mentor?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
At one point at Microsoft, right before I left, I counted 27 people on my calendar that I was mentoring or sponsoring or so on. I was meeting people for coffee so often I was just perpetually caffeinated. Anyway, so what I decided was, this is crazy, and I started saying to people, I will spend time with you and we'll put this together, but you have to prove to me that you are mentoring 5. And then I said, and those 5 are mentoring 5. But at first it was, you have to mentor 5. Lisa, I was so disappointed in the number of people that said, I don't have time to do that. I don't, it's not even, I don't have time to do that. Because to do justice, you want to spend some good time with people. And I thought, if you aren't giving what you're getting, then you're not someone that I'm going to invest in myself. And just telling people that made them think, oh, wow. And I'm like, that's how it works. That is how. And I believe stand up. You gotta show up, stand up, and lift up.
Yeah, let's talk about those.
Yeah, if you don't, first of all, if you don't show up for other people and yourself, then you don't have a seat at the table, and you can't help yourself, you can't help others. And then, so getting that seat at the table is really nice, but then you have to stand up for yourself, and you have to stand up for others when it's hard, when it's not easy, when something's happening where they need the support and they need that advocate. You have to stand up. And at the end, our job as people that are able, we have to lift up others. And there, as Jules said, initially she thought, who am I going to support? Who can I lift up? There's always someone that we can look at and lift up. And we think of, I'm going to lift up from below me. Everybody needs that. I learned at Microsoft, no matter if I was mentoring the most entry-level person or the most senior executive, everybody felt the same, which was pretty much every woman thought, I don't have this figured out. I'm kind of a fake, the imposter syndrome. And it didn't matter title. And so just being able to shine a light and hold a mirror up to someone else's achievements and help them see what they actually have achieved and what they have done and so on enables them, I think, to more easily show up, stand up, lift up.
Yeah. Let me just ask, we've got all sorts of wisdom in this virtual room here as well. So for those of you who are watching this live, share in the chat what sorts of ground rules you set when you either become mentored or mentor somebody. And Jane, while folks are thinking, is there anything else that you insist of the people who you mentor by way of ground rules?
Well, I do like for people, first of all, to know what it is that they want, and for us to agree on a timeline in terms of, or just when we're going to do that, and for them to follow through, right? And for them to track, because it's easy to sit down with someone for an hour and so on and do it every now and again. But at the end of the day, I like to be a little bit like, what are we working towards? And for them to have in mind something that would be.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, because it is, let's be honest, mentoring is the most incredible gift you can give to someone. It's your time, it's your talent, and it's the treasure of your experience and support and advocacy. And that's a lot. And so it also says, I believe in that person. You're worth investing in, and I really see you and want to see you get better. There has to be something that for them to say, I'm going to take this and I'm going to carry it forward. And if that doesn't happen, then that doesn't work for me.
Yeah. I want to highlight something that you said, because I think it's so important. You were in corporate environments for so long where mentoring was available in a formal way. You talked about, the importance of kind of informality in mentoring, that it really can occur as well. And one of the things that you've modeled that we see so infrequently, but is so important, is the intentionality around it. Just because it's informal, just because it's organic, doesn't mean that it has to totally lack structure or intentionality. So it's really important for mentors and mentees in an informal way to say, this is what's important to me. This is how I'm going to know that you value my time, right? This is how I know that you're going to be a learner and how I'm going to learn from you. And giving homework and having expectations is really, really important. There's an amazing thing going around the internet earlier this week from Adam Grant saying that the best way, I think it was Jennifer Garner interviewing Adam Grant, saying the best way you can kind of give somebody feedback is to say, I have high expectations and I know you can live into them, right? This is why I'm doing that. So I think that's really, really important. Yeah, Rebecca shared in the chat that having explicit time commitment has been really important for me. Have you all addressed that at all, just in terms of what your time commitment to the relationship is going to be and how you're going to navigate that?
It has been, actually. We set up time, and then we're very explicit and very clear in saying, we're not going to talk about Boys and Girls Club because we're both involved in that, or we're not going to talk about this other thing. We're going to specifically talk about this and not get off track, because all of a sudden it either doesn't happen or time flitters away. So the times when we've gotten together to have conversations, we differentiate, or at least we try, Jules, to differentiate when it is a mentoring kind of a get that conversation versus a different conversation. What do you think, Jules?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the great thing about my relationship with Jane is that we do have a lot of fun. So it's important to make sure we're explicit about and intentional about our conversations, because it is easy to get carried away with our fun too. So I've appreciated Jane kind of really beating the drum with that and kind of refocusing us to make sure we're staying on track with what our intention is going into our time.
Yeah, I love that. We talk a lot about go ahead, Jane. Go ahead.
The one thing I'll say, because I was an executive at Microsoft as one of the women, and there just weren't enough women for everybody that wanted time on the calendar. There just weren't. But I loved it when someone asked if I would be a mentor, et cetera. And I used to just say, yes, absolutely. I'd love to. And I quit doing that. I talked about the 1 to 5, but I also said, what does success look like for you? I'd ask that a lot. What does success look like for you? Why me, and what is it about me that you want, from me, or how can I help you? Because that was really a way for me to figure out, how do I tap in and how can I help them on their journey? I don't need to help them on my journey, on what I think they should do. And so for them to have some concept or some idea of why me, what they would like to achieve in working with me or spending time with me, enabled me to help them, or just whatever. That's mentoring. I can go to lunch with a lot of people, and that's great. That's not necessarily that's not what we're talking about, I don't think.
Yeah, that's delicious, but not developmental, I like to say, right?
Oh,
Yeah. Um, I want to take a pause from the mentoring conversation for just a second and just drill down on the Boys and Girls Club, because that's not just your connection, but Jane, you've dedicated all the proceeds from your new book to the Boys and Girls Club. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the Boys and Girls Club, about why it's so important to you and how you decided to make this connection between Worthy and the club itself.
right. Well, I'll be truthful. If it hadn't been for someone because I grew up without any expectations from my parents, without an expectation of college or anything like that from them. And if it hadn't been for gnarly old nun that kind of intervened at a critical time and asked about my future and helped me get a scholarship, she literally opened the door to a world, to a future I did not know existed. I didn't know existed. If it weren't for her, I don't know that I wouldn't be having this conversation today. And I look at Boys and Girls Club in much the same way. Not only is it a safe place where kids are, help with their learning and get the food and support and all those things that they need, it also surrounds them with individuals who believe in them, individuals who open their eyes to opportunities, individuals that share with them that where they've been isn't necessarily where they will go. They can create and do anything. And so the opportunity, I looked at the book that I put together, and it's a collection of stories of overcoming, of me going from rural Iowa to the corner office, right? And that's my way of paying forward what I've learned to others, so that hopefully they don't have the same issues and mistakes. So it's almost like mentoring through stories, but it's also giving back, because all the proceeds are going to Boys and Girls Club. And if I can help provide a scholarship like that person did for me, and open a door to a future someone else may not know exists, wow, that works for me. That's so 100% of the proceeds. So I can honestly say to people, please buy this book, only if for no other reason, know that you are donating directly to helping someone else have a future they may not otherwise have.
Wonderful. Jules, how about you? What's your draw, in addition to it being your employer? Tell us about, well, first of all, for those who don't know, because we have people from as far away as Istanbul and Kathmandu on the phone, what is the Boys and Girls Club? What do they do? What do you do at the Boys and Girls Club? And why has it been important to you?
Yeah, Boys and Girls Club is a nonprofit that is geared towards supporting kids, specifically when they're not in school. So giving them not just a place to go, but a place to grow, really, and to, have a mentor, just like we're talking about here, somewhere they can have a mentor, somewhere they can, improve their academics, improve their interests, find people that are like them, find people that aren't, and it really support kids in that kind of childhood journey and their life journey, and also create opportunities for those who might not. And so that's why every year we do a Youth of the Year scholarship for kids. And Boys and Girls Club, I'm a part of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Bellevue, but it really is, there's Boys and Girls Clubs all over the country. And each club is unique and specializes in different kinds of things based on where they're located. But all of the Boys and Girls Clubs participate in Youth of the Year, which is geared towards teens and helps them, they go through like an application, they just speaking in front of different kinds of people, and they ultimately kind of go through a series of steps to receive different kinds of scholarships that are geared towards their future, which is really cool. So I am specifically on the development team at the Boys and Girls Club, so I get to really be a part of the important work in making sure these kids get those opportunities. And it's really been a unique experience for me. I'm very passionate about it, and it's even cooler that I get to also support Jane in her journey with Worthy, knowing that it's all kind of going back to that same cause. It's really exciting.
I love that. I love that. One of my own motivations for doing this series of conversations for National Mentoring Month is that I'm really interested in mentoring relationships that are sustained over time and how they change over time. And you intimated this just a little bit earlier, Jules, but I'm hoping that you and Jane will both share with us, what is it that you think is the secret to a mentoring relationship that lasts, and how has yours evolved?
Mm. I mean, I think there's a lot of different things, but I think a lot of it has to do with it having parameters around holding each other accountable. I think because Jane sets up an environment where I have to, kind of really show how I'm using her time, and kind of, not just take for granted the time I'm spending with her, but really kind of show how I'm using it, has allowed me to be committed to it, committed to following through, holding, Jane accountable for making sure we're meeting as well. And in turn, she's able to do the same because she's able to see my commitment to it. So I think most importantly, those ground rules are beneficial and important. I think it's important to, on both sides, make sure we feel that kind of same level of commitment.
Jane?
It's selfish on my part. I genuinely enjoy Jules. I am committed to her success. And the more I've gotten to know her and the more our relationship has developed, it really has been a very mutual relationship where I have both contributed and received from her. And I think she feels the same. So as long as that honesty, that reciprocal relationship, that genuine like and wanting one another to succeed exists, and I can't imagine it won't ever. I can't imagine not being in a relationship that helps each of us grow and develop through our lives. All that mentoring, which is I think what it is, but it is literally us helping to give the best of one another to help each other grow. Why would we not continue that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's great. It's
Selfish.
great. It's okay to enter this, and with those kind of selfish motives, who needs selflessness when you have that kind of noble selfishness?
It's win-win. I mean,
Yeah, it is a win-win.
I have really benefited from her knowledge, energy, expertise, line of sight, because it's different than mine oftentimes. I have learned and grown as a result of being a mentee to my mentee.
Love that.
Yeah. I'd also say too, Jane does a really good job at creating she has a down to earth approach to it where it feels really safe to, like, I feel like our kind of relationship happened organically. I didn't really know, I kind of just was like, yeah, I'll get on the phone and talk to Jane about this. But because she was so down to earth, and also she also has this wonderful like approach with humor that allows me to like recognize that sometimes everything can feel like your professional career can feel so daunting and so serious. And being able to sit down with Jane, who is someone I really admire, and hear her stories of resilience, of getting up and then also falling down, has allowed me, and an approach that's like fun and funny and light, has allowed me to like not take myself so seriously too, and recognize that I can kind of take off my armor and really kind of just like lean into the here and the now, when I'm with Jane.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for saying that, Jules, because I used to think when I was mentoring that I had to share my successes with someone and what I did that worked. And I've come to appreciate really it's oftentimes the failures and the reality of, like I said, holding up a mirror to someone so that they can see that they have the capabilities, they've demonstrated the capabilities, et cetera. And that failing is not failure.
Mm-mm. Yeah, absolutely.
You can learn and grow, or you can, give up, et cetera. But that is the opportunity to be real and to share where you really are and come from as a mentor, I think is job one. If you're not willing to do that, do not pass go, do not collect $300.
Yeah, and if you're not willing as a mentor to share what your challenges are, how can your mentee be comfortable sharing what theirs are, right? So we hear over and over and over again from mentees that knowing that their mentor is facing a challenge helps them to open up, helps them to build trust, helps them to feel safe in sharing. So that is really super, super spectacular.
And the thing I'll say quickly is don't assume someone doesn't have that experience because they might have a different background, gender, whatever that might be. I think sometimes you look for people that are like yourself to be safe, to be a mentor, and please, and encourage you to go outside your comfort zone, because on the inside, we're all the same. But please go outside your comfort zone, and do not be level agnostic. Do not worry about someone's level or title or any of those things. You got to stretch to be stretched. So just put yourself out there to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking my language. It's good. Well, I want to do a couple things. I want to invite each of you to talk about advice that you have for new mentors and mentees. And while you're thinking about your answer, I want to ask the folks who are in attendance, if you have questions, to type those in the chat. And while you're thinking of those, Jules and Jane, advice to new mentors, advice to new mentees.
Well, I would say start by saying yes. You know, the first time Jane calls, say yes. And also I think sometimes we forget that we can create opportunities for ourselves for mentoring. A lot of people want to help each other, and sometimes we, feel like Jane was kind of saying before, we make assumptions that it comes easy to them, like they wouldn't necessarily want to spend time with me. And it's just far from the truth most of the time. So I would say yes, and if the opportunity is not there, create the opportunity. And then thirdly, also read Jane's book, because there's lots of really insightful stories in there to help inspire you. So that's my recommendation.
What about a recommendation to a new mentor, Jules?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'd say to a new mentor, don't underestimate yourself and your ability and your value that you can bring to someone else. And I know, like for me, when Jane told me that I also needed to be a mentor, I had a hard time imagining what that looked like. And as I've, been able to grow and activate my different superpowers, I recognize that there's so much that I can offer. And there's also so many people who want help or are looking for that. And so I think for new mentors, as Jane created the opportunity for me, I would encourage you to do so for others, and to recognize that there's someone out there that you can influence and really impact.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jules. Jane, how about you?
What she said was really good. As a mentor, I would say I really would encourage you to ask those people that you're mentoring to mentor other people. It tells them that you believe in them and you have something that you believe they have something to offer to others. But it also is a good litmus test to find out how committed they are to giving back, and if they're the kind of person that is willing to invest and willing to pay forward what they're getting. Okay. The second thing is, I would say that many of the people that you are going to mentor, I initially thought, oh, they just want to hear my story. I'm going to tell them what to do, and I'm going to give them guidance on that. Many of the times people know what they need or want to do. And having someone that acts as a sounding board that maybe has been there or has that experience or can ask the right questions is much, much more important than telling them your opinion of what they should do or telling them what to do. It's the questions you ask, the listening. And then the third thing is lift them up, show them what they've done, help them see and shine a light on where they can go. Because a lot of times mentoring is nothing more than their lifting their line of sight and giving them the courage and encouragement and to go. And that's really exciting because you're not doing it for them. They have that capability. You're just helping them go forward. I look at Jules and what she's achieved. She had that and she is capable of that and much, much more. And look what she's doing. So there's that. Any other? It's like mentee, did you ask, or is that good?
Yeah, mentee. Yeah. What about for a new mentee?
I think I talked about this. I was always very level conscious because I grew up very, very, very blue collar, and it was an us, them, and I still struggle sometimes to overcome that. See people as people. If someone has something you want, know why you want it, know what you're going to get from it, and then go to them and ask. Them telling you no probably has nothing to do with you. It has to do with their time, their other commitments, whatever that might be. But oftentimes you're asking someone to mentor them is a really nice gift you're giving them. It's a nice opportunity, and you need to remember that they are going to learn from you, and you are giving them your time, and they are also going to benefit from that. So don't hesitate to do it.
Beautiful. Well, Joanne's asked a great question. She says, organizationally, have you found any pushback or negative comments or energy towards the time being taken in either the role of mentor or mentee?
No.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm going to add to my answer, if you have the opportunity as the mentor, being able to also sponsor, which is different, because the mentor mentee is with that person, but as you get to know that person, you feel confident in their capabilities, you feel confident in what they're looking for, et cetera, to externally then look for ways for that person to lift them up through others, to advocate for them, to find maybe different positions or different things that you can bring back to them, I think is really important. That's out of your side of your little mentoring thing, but that's important. Yeah. I look at mentoring and menteeing as coaching, training, development, helping someone become a force multiplier. It is absolutely one of the best investments any company, any organization can make in a person.
Yeah, I love that. I'll just add, Joanne, in terms of my own experience working with companies, sometimes there is pushback, right? When you don't have a mentoring culture and you don't have a learning culture, sometimes organizations will say, what are you doing? Like, you got work to do. Why are you working on this developmental stuff? And the key there, particularly when you have an informal mentoring relationship, is to make sure that the mentee is involving both their supervisor and their mentor in their development. And if the mentoring actually is effective and high quality, and the mentee has involved their supervisor, it becomes a show me. Like, you can start to see what the gains are and the pushback dissolves. So a lot of times I'll tell mentees, maybe you don't want to share yet with your supervisor that you're in a mentoring relationship. Talk with your mentor about how you can involve your supervisor and get feedback from your supervisor on the development that you're having. And then what happens is you start to create these little pockets where people are seeing mentoring success, and that's how mentoring cultures start to be built, is pocket by pocket by pocket by pocket. But it's very rare when people really are taking the reins of their own learning and development, that they don't start to see those gains, and that it doesn't start to take on a whole life of itself. And Joanne's asked another really great question, which is, and you started with this, Jane, as well. Can you differentiate the value of mentoring from the value of coaching? What are your thoughts? And then I'll share mine.
Oh, that's not fair. You're the expert in this. You're the mentor excellence, mentoring excellence. To me, the coach, I mean, I've worked with both. I've worked with coaches and I've worked with mentors. Mentors for me are usually a more personal relationship. There's somebody within the company or someone that shares something in an ongoing way. And so even though it's structured, in my mind, it's very different than coaching, which is typically, again, from my experiences, is very defined, very aligned to a specific thing that's typically associated with the company. And I have found there's overlap between the two, but they're quite different. The person that mentors me is someone who has what I want. I know that it's a personal relationship, and it feels different. It is different. It's not paid. It is a value of my time for you and a gift that I give one back to the other. Coaching is something that is professional and it's paid, and there's, all those things. Yeah. What's the right answer, Lisa?
Well, there is no right answer. I like your answer. And my answer is a little different, which is that coaching does not have the same reciprocity that mentoring has. I like to say that all great mentors are coaches, but not all coaches are mentors. So great mentors, you probably have used some coaching skills in your conversations with Jules, right? Where you're pushing her beyond her comfort zone, you're using appreciative inquiry, you're asking really open-ended questions and really listening well. But mentoring has that reciprocity that you talked about. And whereas coaching is led by the coach, the learning is led by the mentee. It's a very, very different process. So they're related, they're kind of sisters. But as you say, there is quite a difference there as well. Okay, before we go, I want to just share this beautiful image of Jane's book. And so as you can see today, Jane and Jules started us off on our mentoring pair interview series. Next week, we actually have two of these these longstanding mentoring pairs. Thomas Martin and Robert Wilson are next week. Thomas is the chair of the Mentoring Center at the University of Charleston, and his mentee, Robert Wilson, so they'll have some great perspective. And Bev Kay and Casey Simmons. For those of you who don't know Bev Kay, she's a legend. She wrote the book Watch Them Grow or Watch Them Go, or Help Them Grow and Watch Them Go, and many, 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 many others, and is really legendary in the personal development space. So that'll be a real treat. And then my colleague in the mentoring space, Helen Patterson, and her mentee, Sonia Sansgiri, are going to be joining us the last week of January as well. We are also so blessed in that just this last week, Michelle and I have been getting so many longstanding mentoring pairs saying, we want to be interviewed. So you will have bonuses in 2024 beyond just this month. So stay tuned for more of those as well. Jane and Jules, thank you so, so much. Any last words or thoughts that you want to share with the folks here today, either about mentoring, about each other, about your book, about Boys and Girls Club? Any thoughts that are burning for you?
I'll start off, and Jules, you can take us home. Just to remember that it's okay to ask for help. Asking for help and asking for somebody to be your mentor is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength, and that it's an investment you're making in yourself. So please feel as though you are worthy of being able to do that, to know that you don't have to figure it all out yourself by any means, and that what other people say you can't, won't, or shouldn't do are exactly the kind of things that your mentor is going to help you overcome and do, be, and become. So go for it. Go for it. Be a good mentor and be a good mentee as a result.
Absolutely. And I would say also, just know that Jane's book is coming out next week, January 23rd. So I have to make sure I plug that in, because I encourage you all to read it. It has so much value and so much insight in there. So please order her book and
Contribute to Boys and Girls Club.
And contribute to the Boys and Girls Club. Exactly.
Terrific. Well,
Lisa, thank you so much for having us on.
Thank you so much. It was really fun.
This is a joy for us as well. Thank you for kicking it off. We couldn't have kicked it off in a better way. We have put the link to get your book in the chat again. So please do buy the book and help the Boys and Girls Club. And I know you'll find the stories rewarding and meaningful for you as well. Jane and Jules, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Happy National Mentoring Month. And please join us next week as well.
Thank you for having us, Lisa. Take care. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming, despite the hours differences.